Imagine living somewhere with 500,000 penguins, but fewer than 4,000 people. Every night, the wind rattles your windows. Getting to Britain takes longer than flying from New York to Tokyo. And one of Britain's shortest wars showed up right on the doorstep. This is the Falkland Islands, one of the most isolated places still under British control. Yet for nearly 4,000 people, this is an adventure. It's just life. They really do order groceries, go to school, date, stream their favorite shows, and raise families here. They just have to do it thousands of miles from almost everyone else. So what's everyday life actually like when your closest neighbors are penguins instead of people? The map explains everything. The Falkland Islands sit about 300 miles off Argentina, but they're still British territory. London is nearly 8,000 miles away. Most people picture a single isolated rock out in the ocean. It isn't. It's actually a chain of islands, two main ones, East and West Falkland, plus more than 700 smaller ones, spread across an area roughly the size of Connecticut. And almost everyone lives in and around one town. Step outside it, and entire islands don't have a single permanent resident. In the capital, Stanley, rows of brightly painted houses line the waterfront. But the moment you leave town, people basically disappear. No other cities, no neon signs, no highways, not even a traffic light. Just hundreds of miles of empty, wind-swept grass. Step onto a beach out here, and you're honestly more likely to make eye contact with a penguin than another human. There are so many penguins in the Falklands, hundreds of thousands of breeding pairs across 5 different species. That statistically, you're over 100 times more likely to run into one than a person. Why so many? Cold, nutrient-rich currents sweep up from Antarctica and turn the surrounding sea into an endless buffet. For the wildlife, it's paradise. For the people who live here, it means sharing your backyard with massive penguin colonies and living in a place that seems almost perfectly designed for wildlife, not people. That's how they share the land. Wait until you see how they survive the weather. Early settlers noticed something strange almost immediately. They couldn't find a single tree, not one. Turns out constant gales, blowing over 40 miles an hour, day after day, combined with acidic soil to keep trees from ever taking root. The handful of trees you'll see today were planted by hand and boxed behind stone walls just to survive the wind. So without wood, how do you build a fire? How do you even stay warm? The answer was right under their boots. They literally dug their fuel out of the ground, cutting blocks of dark, spongy peat, drying them all summer, then burning them through the freezing winter. The capital runs on heating oil today, but plenty of farms out in the countryside still heat their homes with peat fires, exactly like their grandparents did. But surviving the landscape is only half the challenge. Outside of Stanley, locals call the countryside camp, from the Spanish word campo, meaning field. Imagine your truck breaks down out there. There's no roadside assistance to call. The nearest mechanic isn't 5 miles away, isn't 50. There simply isn't one. In camp, neighbors can live 30 or 40 miles apart, across terrain so rough that a lot of it didn't even have paved roads until recently. Pipe bursts, generator dies, you fix it yourself. Out here, you're the mechanic, the electrician, the plumber, and the carpenter, all in one. To get around, families rely on modified 4x4S ATVs and small propeller planes that land right on grass strips in farmers' fields. For decades, the Land Rover Defender was basically part of the family here. Oversized tires, a heavy winch, a snorkel, all just to pull itself out of a peat bog. The weather isn't what dictates your schedule out here. Cargo ships do. So what does everyday life look like in a town of roughly 3,000 people? Forget same-day delivery. Here, your grocery store is one delayed cargo ship away from empty shelves. Picture waking up on a windy Tuesday. Before work, you check whether the supply ship actually made it in. If it didn't, you might not see fresh fruit again for a week. Running out of milk isn't a quick trip to the grocery store. It's basically an international shipping problem. Mail comes in either by military aircraft or cargo ship. Need a replacement laptop charger? Sure, just be ready to wait weeks. Grocery shopping happens at Stanley's main supermarket, the West Store. Because nearly everything is shipped in from South America or Europe, prices can be brutal. A gallon of milk or fresh produce can run double or triple what you pay back home. People don't really grocery shop here. They prepare for supply interruptions. Here's a detail that surprises most people. There isn't a single traffic light anywhere in the territory. Residents often describe the islands as a place where people commonly leave their doors unlocked or even their keys in the truck outside the store. So groceries are expensive. Shipping is slow. What about the internet? For years, that was rough too, slow, pricey satellite connections where downloading one movie could blow through your data plan for the month. Then Starlink dishes started showing up on rooftops across Stanley. And suddenly, locals had fast, affordable internet for the first time. When everyone in town knows everyone else, things get interesting fast. Take dating. In a territory of around 3,700 people, a lot of them married, elderly, or kids, the actual dating pool is tiny. Locals joke that your date already knows your exes, your family history, and probably what you had for breakfast. Privacy is almost impossible in a town this small. So what do teenagers and young adults do when they're bored on weekend? There's no mall, no bowling alley, no movie theater. Entertainment here is homemade. After school, kids play soccer, join youth clubs, or ride in local horse races. A huge tradition. Summer weekends mean 4x4 trips, beach bonfires, fishing for sea trout, camping out in the middle of nowhere. Winter pushes everyone indoors, into pubs like the Victory, the Globe, and the Rose. Out here, the pub is a town hall, the sports bar and the living room all rolled into one. Any given Friday, you'll find sheep farmers down from camp, off-duty soldiers, government workers, and visiting fishing crews, all at the same bar. Getting people to this tiny social hub, though, takes one of the strangest flight routes on the planet. Want to leave the island for a vacation? That's a full logistics operation. The main link to the outside world is the RAF Air Bridge. Twice a week, military transport planes fly between England and Mount Pleasant Air Base, stopping halfway at Ascension Island to refuel. The whole trip takes over 18 hours, longer than flying from New York to Tokyo. Since it's run by the Royal Air Force, civilian seats are limited and pricey. Miss your flight, and you might be waiting another week. The only other option is a weekly commercial flight through Chile or Brazil. And if a storm rolls in, the air base shuts down completely, and travelers get stuck on either side of the Atlantic for days. Looking around, you'd never guess this place is one of the richest territories on Earth. One tiny sea creature made that happen. On paper, the average resident here is wealthier than someone living in Britain. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. None of that wealth comes from oil or gold. It comes largely from squid. Back in the late 1980s, the local government drew a 200-mile economic zone around the islands. Every year, massive commercial fishing fleets from Asia and Europe pay tens of millions of dollars just for a license to fish ilex and lolagos squid in these waters. Those licensing fees now fund more than half the territory's entire budget. A once struggling sheep farming outpost turned itself into a wealthy, self-sufficient territory that pays for its own schools, hospitals, and roads. But none of that prosperity was guaranteed. In fact, just a few decades ago, the entire future of these islands nearly disappeared overnight. In 1982, all of that stability nearly vanished. For the islanders, the invasion didn't start on a battlefield. It started with strangers in uniform walking into their hometown. On April 2nd, Argentina's military government launched a surprise invasion, landing troops in Stanley and claiming the islands as their own, what they call Las Islas Malvinas. Back home, Argentina was in political trouble, and the junta was betting a quick, patriotic win would unite the country. They were wrong. British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher sent a naval fleet 8,000 miles across the ocean to take the islands back. What followed was 74 brutal days of fighting in freezing mud, howling wind, and icy seas. Families spent weeks hiding in cellars while shells landed overhead, and jets fought dogfights above Stanley. By the time British forces retook the town on June 14th, Nearly 1,000 people had died. British troops, Argentine soldiers, and 3 island civilians. The war changed everything that came after. To make sure it could never happen again, Britain built Mount Pleasant, a heavily fortified airbase with over 1,000 troops, fighter jets, and air defense systems stationed permanently. Almost overnight, the military became a significant chunk of the entire population. The strangest part of the war wasn't political. It was ecological. When Argentine troops pulled out, they left tens of thousands of landmines buried across the beaches and pastures around Stanley. For nearly 40 years, people simply couldn't set foot on that sand. So the penguins moved in instead. Large penguin colonies moved directly into minefields, building enormous breeding grounds. Turns out, a penguin just isn't heavy enough to trigger an anti-personnel mine. Those are built to go off under the weight of a boot. For 4 decades, landmines accidentally built one of the safest penguin sanctuaries on the planet. It wasn't until late 2020 that clearance crews finally pulled the last mine out of sand, and the Falklands were officially declared mine-free. More than 40 years later, the tension hasn't fully gone away. Argentina still claims the islands in its own constitution. So in 2013, the Falklands decided to settle it themselves with an official referendum. One simple question: do you want to stay a British overseas territory? Out of 1,517 votes cast, 99.8% said yes. Only 3 people voted no. For the people who live here, that's not a political talking point. That's identity. So why doesn't everyone just leave? Because the community they built here is nearly impossible to find anywhere else. Running it, though, takes some creative problem solving. Start with healthcare. Stanley's hospital handles the basics fine. Routine surgery, dental work, delivering babies. But a heart attack out here isn't treated the same way it would be in London. On-call doctors can handle house calls. But for anything major, the hospital stabilizes a patient while an emergency flight is arranged, all the way across the ocean to specialized hospitals in Santiago, Chile. Education runs on the same kind of workaround. In Stanley, kids go to normal schools, but out in camp, where farms sit dozens of miles apart, the government sends traveling teachers who ride out on 4x4s and ATVs and actually live with farming families for weeks at a time, tutoring the kids in person. And when a student turns 16 and finishes their exams, there's no university on the island. So the government pays full tuition and living costs to send them 8,000 miles to England for college. Most come back years later as nurses, engineers, and teachers, ready to serve the same community that sent them. When your weather never stops, 40 miles in hour gusts, basically every day, you got 2 options: fight it or use it. Shipping in diesel is expensive. So local engineers looked at all that wind and saw an opportunity instead of a problem. Turbines went up on the ridges above Stanley to catch it. Today, wind covers a serious chunk of the capital's power. Out in camp, plenty of farms run almost entirely on their own turbines, solar panels, and battery banks. Storm knocks out the grid, they just flip over to backup power and keep going. It's one of the highest rates of wind power used anywhere in the region. Most people spend their whole lives trying to get closer to civilization. The people here did the opposite. They dug their own fuel out of the ground. They built a fortune on squid. They shared their beaches with hundreds of thousands of penguins and rebuilt their lives after a war nobody saw coming. Maybe that's the real lesson of the Falklands. Home isn't the easiest place to live. It's the place people decide is worth building a life in. And if you think the Falklands are isolated, wait until you see the next one, an island built by volcanoes, reshaped by one of the most devastating wildfires in modern American history, and still fighting to hold onto its own identity. Next time, we're heading to Maui,